Okay, es geht los. What up, ladies and gentlemen? Manny here. I hope we're live. As always, let's start with a little quality check. How is the audio? How is the video quality? Again, we've got our beautiful Rode VideoMic Pro here dangling around, so at least the audio quality should be quite decent. Please give some feedback. Oh, there's already some questions in the chat before we're even starting. Oh, that's amazing. Super hot day here in Vienna today. Not in Vienna, in the south of Austria. Not in Vienna, of course, but in the south of Austria, in Styria, actually. Super hot day, very humid as well. We've been waiting for a thunderstorm actually for up to how long? 3 hours now or something. Nothing seems to happen. Just seems to stay like this. Hot in Vienna as well. Someone writes, Ahmed Metzger. Hot in Vienna as well. Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, when all the concrete heats up in the city after a day like this, it's tough. But yeah, amazing day, very sunny, not a lot of wind obviously, but very sunny and just beautiful to be outside in the garden, run around and collect some cherries from the cherry tree and gathering in the last couple of days we gathered some cherries to be able to freeze them in the freezer, because then you can somehow preserve them for the winter without cooking them and adding super much sugar, which is what you usually do with jams and marmalades and that kind of stuff. But I'm not such a huge fan of this method. I'd rather collect them, put the seeds out and throw them into the freezer. And then you can break something off of this compact block of frozen cherries, so to say, and throw them in a smoothie, in a blender, for some sort of recipes and all that. I like this method more. So yeah, now it's the evening, time for the stream, time for the weekly stream. How do you enjoy the weekly stream? I hope you like it. I really enjoy doing the live streams. Now we're trying the Sunday thing. According to the last poll that I did, Sunday evening is the time when most people have the time to join. So that's what we're going to try out today as well. Mika M says, quality good. Dill Massive says, I'm melting here in Arizona. Wow, Arizona. Never been there. How late is it in Arizona? Yeah, that would be interesting. Let me just look up where Arizona is actually. In the Yankee Doodle land. Arizona. Okay, so we are apparently to the east of LA there, huh? To the east of California, bordering Mexico. So I can imagine. Wow, that's gotta be a hot area. Phoenix, Tucson.
Arizona is the place where the Little Prince landed.
The Little Prince?
The Little Prince?
No. Who's the Little Prince?
It's a book. It's a story.
Okay.
Of a little prince dropping from the universe, meeting some person in the middle of Arizona who broke down with his plane.
That's interesting. Is it a German book or an English one?
French. Le Petit Prince? I don't know.
Le Petit Prince.
Something like that.
Hello, Mona.
Do you know the
the Little Prince who lands in Arizona? That sounds like an interesting story.
Super cute story.
We're starting with some really good topics today. This is going to be an epic stream. I already feel it. So I'm going to start now reading some questions, huh? Shall we? Anthony G. That's a nice channel name somehow. Anthony G. Hi, I'm 55 and just started bouldering about a year ago. I seem to develop trigger finger after I stopped climbing for 3 months because of the pandemic. Did you ever get trigger finger? No. I think the trigger finger is, in German, it's called springender Finger. It's when you develop some kind of swollen tendon, and the swollen knot then needs to pass through the pulleys, and then it's kind of blocked, and you pull and you pull and you pull, and then it snaps into place, something like this, right? No, it's not so schlimm. And then it snaps because of the inflammation and everything, you know. I never developed that kind of stuff. I also don't really know anyone, to be honest, in my closer climbing friends who develop this kind of thing. That's why I can't really give you any tips for healing or what could make it better. Yeah, but I know I think that's my memory on what it is. Tell me if I'm correct or not.
Yes, that's correct.
That's correct. Okay, she's an ergotherapist, so she needs to know this kind of stuff as well.
But I don't
Oh,
not good enough.
And I think we are lucky. We're very lucky today because Mona is gonna devote some time of hers to writing down rough chapters again. So we're gonna have some timestamps below this live stream again. That's gonna be amazing. Dingy Dong says, any tips for pushing through discomfort/pain while climbing at your maximum level? How to distinguish good pain, discomfort because a route is hard from pain because of overtraining / not yet recovered / etc. Okay, that's a complex question, but I think I get what you mean there. So how do you distinguish good pain, discomfort because the route is hard, from pain because of overtraining, not yet recovered, and this kind of stuff? Wow. Well, the first question that I would ask you is, are you psyched for the thing? Are you psyched for the route? Are you psyched for fighting through these new kind of challenges that the route throws at you? Maybe there is a super small crimp, something so small that you have never gripped before, and that's causing you pain because you don't have these rock hard fingertips yet, right? That we develop after some time if we grip smaller and smaller holds. I mean, this is good pain then, right? As a matter of fact, I've talked about this a lot, not so much on YouTube yet, but with my close climbing friends, I always talk about the fact that hard climbing is essentially your ability to endure discomfort, right? Your ability to endure discomfort gets greater and greater, and that's how you push yourself into higher and higher grades on the grade ladder. And the thing is, what people usually expect is that it stays the same, right? They expect that you have this kind of level of climbing, and like let's say you climb 8A, and this feels like kind of hard, and then they expect that they get stronger, and this way what felt like 8A will soon feel like 7C plus felt to them in the past, right? Or 7C, something easier, quote unquote. Now, how it really feels is that 8A is always gonna stay 8A. The thing that you feel when you climb your second, third 8A, this is always how it's probably gonna feel for the rest of your life. But the thing is, as you progress, you become able to endure even more discomfort than that. The kind of discomfort that an 8A plus or an 8B or even an 8B plus would give you, right? And this gets greater and greater. The more we get to our limit, of course, the more it feels like we're on this kind of exponential increase in difficulty. Whereas in fact, we are just, I talked about this in my grading versus difficulty video. In fact, we're just working closer and closer at our limits, and that's why it's feeling harder and harder for us more and more, and that's why we have this impression of an exponential grade perception, whereas in fact the grades are linear, and we just get put into place by our starting age and genetics and this kind of stuff. But the other thing is that 8A and all these grades, usually your first one feels really hard, and then it the second one, the third one, it kind of es pendelt sich ein in German, but it kind of gets to an equilibrium where these grades always feel the same, even though you might become able to endure even more discomfort, and that's what it feels like to climb then 8B and 8B plus and all that. So if you long story short, I got a bit of track here, but if you're feeling that you're still psyched for the route, I mean, especially the thing that you're talking about, overtraining. Overtraining should be characterized by a significant drop in psych for the sport as a whole. Okay, so if you feel that the sport all of a sudden became boring to you, or you just don't feel the need anymore, you've reached a point where you think, okay, there's just, I don't know, I don't want to drag my body through all these chores anymore. This is what overtraining feels like psychologically. So you should be definitely able to distinguish that from just having problems with the difficulty of the route or with the pain that the route gives you, or this kind of stuff, right? And the same is true. I mean, not yet recovered. As I talked before, you can have really, really good sessions with epic psych and epic progress on projects, although you just had a session yesterday. Not necessarily on that project, but you don't need to necessarily have a rest day to attack a limit project or something like that. You don't need to have that the day before, especially if you're still a bit on the younger side. I have the feeling that other factors matter much more, whether you feel good on your project or not. Maybe what you ate before or how the conditions are. Maybe you just have a light day. Your body is in lightweight mode today. Maybe it's a low gravity day. Who knows? All these kind of factors, they have a huge influence on whether you feel great on a project or not. Rather less the fact of whether you had a rest day or not, right? So yeah, huge answer to very interesting question, of course. Wow, there's already a lot of questions cruising in. We're gonna do it like last time. From time to time, I'm just gonna jump down in the chat and read the most actual questions, the most recent questions. Then you have to type your stuff again if you have the feeling that I skipped your question. If you want something to stand out from the questions, then you can always drop a super chat, of course. I'm gonna prefer super chats as usual. Hey, do you have any recommendations for great books about training for climbing? Yes, I can really recommend 9 out of 10 Climbers Do the Same Mistakes by Dave McLeod. Amazing book. And I think that's actually the only book that I ever finished about climbing. I started a couple, but none of them got me psyched enough to really read them to the end, right? Because I always had the feeling, yeah, okay, they are kind of catered towards the beginner audience, and still a lot of valuable stuff, but it wasn't really what I was looking for. And this book was what I was looking for. It was really honest, really at the same time very in depth about mechanisms and also the training kind of stuff, but also the mentality that you have to have if you want to climb hard, right? The privilege factor as well. The thing is, a lot of people nowadays have this they have this dream, like, right, living the climbing dream lifestyle. And I think this book really attacks this kind of mindset the right way. This is how I can describe it now. And it really puts it into perspective, shows the reality of this kind of lifestyle in the right way, and also takes into consideration that you have to have the early starting age, and you have to have the genetics and all that, right? And then on top of that, you have to have the determination, you have to have the privilege. And this book talks very honestly about all these things, right? It's not like it's not kind of luring you in and giving you false impressions or false hopes or anything like that. It's really honest in that kind of regard. That's what I like about the book. And of course, there's also very detailed, in-depth tips about training. And and the guy who wrote it is a very experienced climber himself. Obviously, climbed super hard and has his own YouTube channel. Probably you know it anyway. Josue Jepes. Hi, my name is Josh. Hi, Josh. I just want to know whether or not you have ever tried a 9A or even 9B. I never tried a 9B. I never tried a 9A plus. I tried a 9A. I tried, as a matter of fact, I touched 3 9As. And it felt always super hard for me. No surprise, surprise. It felt super hard. Yeah, I touched one really bouldery one and then 2 more really bouldery ones. But with the 2 more really bouldery ones, the boulders were after a significant endurance/power endurance section. So this kind of stuff. All were good. I think I have the most chances on the super bouldery one. But unfortunately, I don't want to disclose which route it is. I'd like to keep it a little bit to myself at this point. I just want to have a good time on the project and see. I get this question a lot. Which 9As have you tried? What are you trying a 9A at the moment? Do you have any new projects? Yes, I touched a couple of 9As. I even touched one where I had the feeling, okay, maybe this could work at some point, where I could do all the single moves but one really quickly. I think after 2 or 3 days. And but I don't want to disclose it. It's an amazing route. That's all I'm gonna say. Bakir Siljadzic, which is the best way to train endurance? Hello from Bosnia and Herzegovina. Oh, nice. Bosnia and Herzegovina. I think this is the land that you go through if you go to the south on the Croatian coast. Could it be? Yes, that's true. So I was there. I was in Bosnia and Herzegovina for a short time during this trip, actually. Best way to train endurance? Well, if you train endurance for outdoor climbing, if you want to train endurance for outdoor route climbing, endurance-y route stuff, you better do just that. You do endurance route stuff outdoors. This will get you the most applicable kind of endurance for the outdoors. Surprise, surprise, right? If you want to train endurance for, like, let's say competition lead climbs, which are super endurance-y as well, then you need some kind of different training. You need to have the plastic training, right? You need to go on the lead walls, which are hopefully set in a good way by your route setters with new modern slopers and stuff like that, so that you can get this kind of strange, abstract 3D climbing that is usually done in this kind of area. If you just want to train endurance for the outdoors, you just climb outdoors. Simple as that. And if you don't have either of that and you want to train endurance in a bouldering gym, then you do traversing, right? I mean, we're talking about aerobic endurance here, right? That's the kind of endurance that you need when you want to shake out. Then you better traverse and do like sets of 20 minutes, just traversing, always shaking out, no hands rest, keep up a soft pump, lots of breathing, get the oxygen into your system, and this way you're going to increase your vascularization, the vascularization of your forearms, and you're going to be able to shake out better after a couple of sessions, and you really notice the difference. It's amazing. This works really well. This is what I'm always saying. You gain endurance relatively quickly compared to max strength. So that's why I don't really train endurance before a climbing trip, for example, because I'm anticipating that I will probably gain the endurance anyway really quickly as soon as I start doing a lot of outdoor climbing again. So I'm focusing on the max strength usually, and maybe a little bit of power endurance in the gym before going on a trip, and then on the trip I gain the residual aerobic endurance that I need for shaking out and stuff. Just worked the same again during this trip. At the end, my endurance was peaking. All the other stuff was in a low, like it usually is with when you climb nothing but endurance for 2 months, right? That's the way it is. The best is always to do what you want to train for, right? Offline says, I guess there are even some videos talking about Nani, even though that's still a project for him. I think that's correct. Yeah. Rebo says, hi Manny. Hi Rebo says, what's up? Joseph Kim, Manny, what are some habits similarities between the fastest progressing climbers, professional and non, that can be adopted by climbers from your perspective? What are some habits similarities between fastest progressing climbers? The fastest progressing climbers in terms of outdoor climbing have very little grade respect. Okay, this is one thing that's really helpful. Be arrogant. Okay, be arrogant. If you meet someone at the crag who is stronger than you, quote unquote stronger than you, don't shy away from that. Go to them, ask them what they're trying, maybe ask for a little bit of beta, right, for that route, even if it's harder than anything that you've tried before. And then try it yourself. Try it yourself. Meeting stronger climbers that are stronger than you at the crag is an amazing opportunity, actually, because you can, with their help, they can show you what's possible. And this way, they reduce your grade respect dramatically for a short time, because you can see that it's actually not that bad, right? Usually when we stand in front of something new, something super hard, and we think, wow, it just looks blank. There are no holes. How the hell can we even get up there? And you probably don't even try it. The really good climbers out there, they did not have great respect when they progressed. Right? They all just always tried something new, something even harder that they did before. And if they were lucky enough and they started super early and had the right genetics, they got positive feedback, because sooner or later they actually could do the new thing. Okay. And maybe then already they are stronger than the guy who showed them this new project, right? So this is the thing that I think unites the pros or the really good climbers out there a little bit. They have very little grade respect, and this way gain the necessary experience to walk through the grade ladder upwards really fast. Okay, and then it's a kind of it's the snowball effect. Okay, it makes this process becomes self-sufficient at some point, because you always get the positive feedback that you actually can do it. And then you're asking, well, maybe I can do something even harder. Why not, right? And then you go for something even harder, and then you can do that. And maybe the people even know that they know your weaknesses, right? They know you're a short guy, you're a tall guy. Okay, so you need this kind of route, you need that kind of route. Especially when you're with locals at their local crags and they project something hard there, and you're just this kind of young gun, you have no idea about anything, but you're super strong in your fingers. Then you can capitalize on this situation and let yourself be given some beta, and then climb something hard and learn that it's not that impossible. Darko Namokosi, what is your preferred fingerboard protocol and grip to train? Repeaters, max hangs? I think for me the most, what I enjoy the most is max hangs. What I can, not so good. What I enjoy training the most is max hangs, because it's just so, it is very calorie sparing, and I have the feeling that you don't have to put your body through a lot of chores to get stronger. What I probably could also use the most, or what would be really nice for my body, is repeaters. Repeaters really have an amazing effect on my fitness, usually. You can also feel it after a couple of sessions, how quickly you get better and how quickly you can increase the bonus weight. But I feel that repeaters put your body through a lot more chores. You probably also burn a lot more calories during a repeater session, during a proper repeater session, than compared to a proper max hang session. And the reason for that is that, of course, hang times are a lot bigger, a lot longer on repeater sessions compared to max hangs. And you do every set with both arms, right? And bonus weight. So you can, if you do it correctly and it's a warm day, then you can even start sweating doing your repeaters, right? If the bonus weight is high enough. On a max hang session, you usually don't start to sweat. So this is a convenient kind of climber solution, right? We do a easy chilly session with just some really short, super hard max hangs, giving as much as possible. And it's always this psychological thing as well with max hangs, that you want to top your last max hang from the previous sessions just that ever so slightly, right? You just want to top it a little bit more, and this always gives you a bit more motivation that you usually don't have on repeaters. On repeaters, you have different kind of goals. You just want to be able to do the same kind of set that you did last time, but with a little bit more bonus weight. And this way is not so rewarding. Actually, it is a really good training and really effective training, but it feels not so rewarding in your mind than doing the max hangs and progressing in terms of max hangs, making the edges smaller and this kind of stuff, starting to be able to hold certain things one-handed. This is just amazing. Sido Digado says, Little Prince happens in Africa, not in Arizona.
No.
Mona says no. No, we don't know. Maybe I don't know. Maybe you're talking about two different Little Princes.
I don't know. But I think it was Arizona.
And she's pretty sure it was in Arizona. Maybe you're talking about two different things. I don't know. Maybe she's also just doesn't remember properly. Hey. Andrzej Ustupski. How about technique? How would you train it? I could do the boulder, but after I rotate my foot 15 degrees, it gave me, I don't know, 1 kilogram or less, and I finally did it. Man. Yeah. This is the question that I get a lot. I mean, a lot of this stuff is obviously experience, okay? Watch my videos. I did a couple of really good videos when it comes to technique. The main, it's not that complicated, okay? Really not. Climbing technique is not that complicated. And if you get certain laws down in your mind, then you can solve 85% of the problems relatively reliably, okay? There's always going to be that 15% of climbs out there that are going to be super weird and going to require something from you that you don't need on any other climb, right? But when it comes to the standard things like back step, flagging, drop knee, high heel hooks, high stepping when it's useful, the knee bars, pinches, side pulls, and all that, underclings, the kind of techniques that all these special situations prefer, they are usually similar. And this is what a technical climber knows. But of course, we only can have a lot of technique or a very good technical game if we have the experience, right? So obviously, this is going to get better with experience. And that's why you're going to get usually a better onsighter with more experience. And with onsighting, a lot of this stuff matters. Obviously. For example, to give some examples here, okay? Drop knee. A drop knee is usually good if you have a side pull foothold, okay? So a foothold that is, it's to the side of you, but it's looking towards you, okay? It's not looking away from you. So it's not, if you climbed it before, it was not like a side pull, but it was kind of like a Gaston, yeah? So you climb, you get this Gaston. Now, an experienced climber already notes in his head, oh, okay, there's a Gaston. It's kind of good. It's kind of big. A little bit of black spots there as well. So probably this could be a foothold for later on. And since it's facing towards me, it could be a back step foothold for the right foot, right? If it's my right hand, as I depicted here. So right hand Gaston could be a drop knee for the right knee in that case for later on. The reason for that is if we drop knee, we make the foot more able, the toes more able to dig into side pulley footholds like that. The other way around, the opposite case would be if the hold was a side pull like this, okay, was a side pull for the right hand, and then later on it's going to become a side pull foothold for the right foot. But of course, this foothold is going to require a more open and a more frontal climbing technique, okay? The knee has to flare out in a frog-like manner, not like in a drop knee manner. So this would be just some examples when it comes to drop kneeing. Usually side pulley climbs with, where you have tufas, for example, right? Tufas are usually side pulls or gastons. You can do them both ways, and of course pinches as well. If you have a lot of pinches, a lot of side walls like this, then drop knees are really frequently used. Just like, for example, heel hooks as well, right? If you have big side walls like that, like it's a side pull but not a small tiny little edge, it's a big jog, then you can put your heel hook there probably later on, right? And this is something that the climber, the experienced climber knows in his head with experience, with onsighting, just doing a lot of mileage. It really helps flashing and onsighting, obviously. So this is just some examples. Also, another tip that I would give you is be flexible. Okay, be flexible in your hips, because only if you are very flexible in your hips, you actually gonna have access to all the different solutions which there are. Right? If you're just not flexible enough to get that high heel hook in, then you can't utilize this kind of solution, although it might exist. Right? And another thing about flexibility, and I'm talking about this always, is that you can reach what is in your range of motion more quickly and more precisely. And this way you get your climbing a lot more flowier and faster. And then you don't need so much endurance. You don't need so much max strength, right? So all these things go into your technical game. I would really advise you to get some mileage in, try some onsighting. A lot of people also get stuck in projects all the time and then only try the projects all the time. Have side projects, always have an opportunity to get some extra mileage in to increase your technical game. And this way you will learn your lessons, and finally you will get it down. And you will find in the end that rock climbing technique is not that complicated. This is a very the amount of progression that you can make with getting your technique better is actually very limited. Okay, you can become on top of your technical game, on top of the technical game in terms of rock climbing. You can get on top of that relatively quickly, I would say. And this is why I say, when you start off with climbing, it's interesting actually. If you start off rock climbing, it is really simple, because you start on the ground and your only goal is to climb upwards and to clip that anchor. Simple stuff, right? These are the laws, these are the rules. It's simple stuff. Then you discover all this kind of complexity that comes with rock climbing. You discover that every route is unique. You discover that there's so many different hold types, so many different holding directions, right? Forces in which you can utilize the rock, ways in which you can step footholds, drop knees, backs, flagging even. Flagging is a highly underrated technique, by the way. You can always flag if you can drop knee, right? The question is, which is better? Watch the videos about technique, where I go into this kind of stuff. And then it's getting kind of complex as you progress, right? And then later on, you will find that you're kind of stalling out with the technical game, and there is not really much more to gain in terms of technique pretty soon, after maybe 4, 5, 6 years of outdoor rock climbing. And then rock climbing performance, that is, becomes really, really simple again. So it's kind of this oval shape of complexity. You're starting out with a really simple sport, then it's getting complex, and then it's getting really, really simple again. And what this simplicity up there looks like is essentially finger strength divided by body weight. Okay. If you can get this factor up there as big as possible, you're going to climb as hard as it gets for your certain type of starting age and genetics and all that. Okay, I think I jumped down again and just read some of the more recent questions, right? Rafael Chia. Let's see, hi Manny. I'm new into bouldering, around 1 year, once a week climbing schedule. I cannot seem to break past before. I can do pull-ups and muscle-ups. I don't project. Any tips? Pull-ups and muscle-ups do not really translate very well into climbing performance at all, in my experience. Maybe at the very, very beginning, the very early stages. But if you do pull-ups and muscle-ups on a pull-up bar, which is what I'm expecting now, then this doesn't really translate into climbing performance because it's a super jog. A pull-up bar is a super jog, and what you can do on a super jog doesn't really matter so much for hard grades. The perfect example for this is Adam Ondra, who could not do a one-armer until he was, 20 years old or something like this, but he was already climbing 9A when he was 13 years old. So this is the kind of thing that we're dealing with here. How is this possible? How can such a strong climber, at this point he already climbed 9A plus and 9B probably, and he didn't do a one-armer? So the reason for this is obviously that doing one-armers on pull-up bars doesn't really give you a lot of climbing performance. Doing one-armers on small little edges, this is what gives you climbing performance. This brings finger strength into the equation, and finger strength is just so much more important. So yeah, what I would do is don't focus so much on muscle ups and pull ups. Of course, they are awesome for having a good body composition in general and having some explosive power. Especially the muscle ups are amazing. But does it really translate into climbing performance? I doubt it. I would. If you're at you say you do once a week climbing schedule. That's not a lot, right? Once a week, there's probably still capacity that you can use. Maybe get another session in, do 2 sessions a week, and try to progress that way, get more mileage. Gustafer, what do you think about steroids in climbing? Not per se the super hard cycles, but just boosting testosterone and maybe 50%. I don't know what the 50% means, but the steroid thing in climbing, I'm not sure if there's already enough prize money in climbing so that it pays off, that you actually have athletes on this kind of gear, because it starts to rain. It starts to rain finally. Yeah. So maybe the humidity in the air is going to go down a little bit now. Anyway, the steroid topic. I think it doesn't pay off at the moment. We're going to see what happens if climbing goes to the Olympics and if climbing gets bigger and there is more prize money involved. Obviously, these things going to change then. And some very correct viewer pointed out to me recently as well. I think it was on a supplements video or on another video. They said there is no more right. There is no other category in terms of sportsmen that uses as much steroids as the amateurs. So the amateurs are actually the top gear users that we have nowadays. But I don't know if this is really true in terms of climbing, because in climbing we usually want to be the small skinny guy. We want to have high finger strength to body weight ratio, as I've said before, and steroids don't really help you in that regard. I mean, they could probably improve recovery and stuff, but especially testosterone thing and things like that, they probably make you bigger, right? They make muscle synthesis a lot more easy for your body and a lot more likely. So it pushes you in that direction, and that means you're going to get heavier. And this is what we don't want when it comes to climbing. It's also probably not good for injury prevention, right? We rather be the skinny ectomorph guy with decent body height, okay, with decent reach, big ape index, the Ondra kind of guy. I mean, honestly, Ondra does not look like he takes steroids, right? He is super jacked, but I mean, look at the guy when he was 18 years old. He could as well just have been a super nerd sitting in front of a computer game all day long with the glasses, and just play video games or whatnot. Something along these lines. But definitely not the steroid taking kind of guy. But you never know, okay? I've never asked him. I don't know. I'm just talking out of my ass here. But yeah, I don't think it pays off at the moment, especially with climbing, where you would have to need a cocktail, which really tries to avoid getting you too heavy. then you also have to avoid the testing for it, because actually there is testing for it. I think if you do competitions nowadays, professional competitions, there's gonna be some tests, so that you have to avoid as well. And this, then it's getting really hard, and when it's getting really hard, it's also getting really expensive, right? You have to do the right techniques. We see this in the cycling sport, right? The cycling sport is a really top-notch, high-end, pushed to the limit sport nowadays, where you could say that probably the top guys are all on gear. And the question is, how do they make it? How much money and effort do they invest into avoiding testing, gearing in a right way so that it doesn't show up on the tests? This kind of stuff, and I think that for climbing, it just doesn't pay off at the moment, at least not in the pro competition scene. On an amateur level, everything is possible, man. As one guy pointed out correctly, a lot of amateurs take a lot of gear, but I think this is especially an issue nowadays with all the gym bros, right? The guys that go to the big iron and pump themselves up and this kind of stuff. Enzo Balzaretti, leaving aside leg gains, do you think sprinting is good for overall agility, power, and explosiveness, like for making you generally faster? Yes, probably. Sprinting is actually really good. I think, when was the time when I sprinted a lot? Actually, when I did the Shaolin kind of thing. When we did the Shaolin kind of thing in the temple, we had this routine where we would line up in a row and then just sprint as fast as possible to the other end of the temple, turn around and sprint as fast as possible back. And then we would wait in line again, we out of breath, like, and then all the other people were sprinting, and then again and again and again, and for 5 repetitions or something. And this really, sprinting strengthens the mind-body connection, okay? Because you're just going all out for a couple of seconds, and you never usually do that anymore in your later age. You only do this kind of stuff when you're very young, and you really just, when you're like 4, 5, 6 years old, something along these lines. Then something interesting happens on the other side of the playground, and you just want to be there, and you're sprinting super fast. Or you play hide and seek and this kind of thing, and you're sprinting super fast, you're super psyched, you want to get that other kid. This is when we sprint, and we get more into adulthood, and we also get more lazy. We get kind of laid back, and we don't feel the need anymore to sprint that much. And this is actually something not so good. I think we lose a bit the connection, and also this playful thing with our body that we still have when we're kids. We kind of lose a bit this connection to sprinting really fast and just going all out for at least a couple of seconds. Then we get forced to do it again in school, in the sports class. At least we got forced to do it back in the higher technical school that I attended. I can still remember that, because there were a lot of people who really hated this kind of thing, the athletics side of sports education. They only wanted to play soccer and basketball and all this. But yeah, we don't sprint enough. Probably we should do it. I think that sprinting. Here's a vague statement. I think that sprinting from time to time is a lot healthier and a lot better for your mind-body connection than doing these super long runs, right? Like jogging for 1 hour and just dragging on low speed and just suffering for all this time. Is again the comparison between training max hangs on a hangboard and training repeaters on a hangboard, or even traversing for 30 minutes on a bouldering wall, which is more kind of a chore. The traversing, of course, is the biggest chore, because you're sweating and you're breathing all the time. You keep going. It's just super efforty, right? And then comes the repeaters, and then comes the max hangs, because the max hangs, they are like kind of this sprint. You go to the hangboard, crank it down as hard as possible for 3 seconds, and then it's over. You can sit on the sofa again and rest for 4 minutes. Amazing climbing training, right? So yeah, this is the sprinting in terms of climbing. But we should do actual sprinting, like running from time to time. I think it's a lot more healthy than the long runs. Unless you're trying to lose leg weight, here the evening jog comes in, and I've talked about that one before.
But maybe warm up before sprinting.
Maybe warm up before sprinting, Mona says. Unless you're 5 or 6 years old, then you don't need any warm up at all. You can just go from 0 to 100 in 1 second and back to 0 in 1 second. So that's just amazing. But these super young kids, I mean, they are kind of their joints are like rubber bands, right? They are just jumping around on that stuff and never get injured and all that. This is also why it is so important to start early if you want to climb strong at some point, because then you will go through all the injury phases in your early days. You're going to spare a lot of injury downtime later on if you start really early. Jesse, what do you think of training rings? Well, rings is good for body strength. Okay, you can do some really awesome exercises on the rings. I like the flies and this kind of stuff to the front, the Superman flies, so to say. This is really epic for body strength training. Apart from that, it's jogs again, right? So if you're doing anything into the pull-up direction, I would rather go onto a hangboard and climb with smaller holds, train with smaller holds, because the pull-up bar is just a jog and doesn't really do a lot for climbing performance. Is it effective to train endurance and power at the same season? To train endurance and power, I would rather split it. If you have the time, rather split it, because if you're really into endurance, it doesn't really give you access even to your max strength. You have to be purely into max strength for 2-3 weeks until you actually get to your current limit, and then you're able to push it even for the next 1-2 weeks, and then you're usually getting weaker again, where you should switch the cycle. You should switch to something else, endurance or power endurance and that. Niklas Kreisel, was sind deine Lieblings-Boulder spots in Österreich? I think, what are my favorite boulder spots in Austria? For me, my favorite boulder spot is Merkenstein, which is a small little area, really insignificant area actually, to the south west of Vienna, but amazing boulders and just such an amazing forest. This spot has a really good energy, I think. Aside from that, I found some really good bouldering in the Grazer Bergland, in an area near Vienna as well, which is called the Hirschwende. There's also amazing bouldering. I really like the weird East Austrian kind of limestone bouldering. It's amazing. I don't have a lot of experience with the West Austrian side, with the stuff that is in Tyrol, which is more on granite. I need to do that stuff as well at some point. Hey Manny, I wanted to ask, what's a realistic grade progression once you're in the 5.12/7A plus grade range? Well, that totally depends on where you are in your gains, when you started, how good your genetics are. That totally depends, man. Some people go from 7A plus to 8A in half a year. This is how it happened for me, because I already had a lot of gains from the gym, and I just had to learn how to apply these gains from the gym onto real rock. And this always takes some time, but eventually I got it done, and then I stalled out at 8A for a pretty long time, actually. I think for up to a year even, and then I climbed my first 8A plus. So it depends. If you already have some gains from the gym, then Yitzes. Then you can progress really fast, obviously. But you can also, some people stall out super quickly at 7B, right? It really depends on your genetics and everything. Leo G, hi Manny. Wie würdest du sagen, kann man über diese V7-Grenze drüber kommen und die richtig schwierigen Boulder machen? V7, I think V7 is, let me see, V11 I think is 8A. That means V10 is 7C plus, V9 is 7C, V8 is 7B plus, and V7 is 7B. Okay, 7B boulders. 7B boulders, how to get beyond 7B boulders? Obviously, do more outdoor bouldering. if you're asking for indoor boulders like that, then do more indoor bouldering. I mean, these are, in the meantime, if you have a modernly set boulder gym, these are two different sports in the meantime, right? Indoor and outdoor bouldering. So you really have to do what you want to get better at. If that's outdoors, then go more on the outdoors. Finger strength to body weight ratio. Finger strength to body weight ratio is what's gonna get you there eventually. Try to, give yourself some new stimulus. Try hangboarding, try campusing for the explosive dynamic power. Maybe that's what you're lacking. Try different styles, find your favorite style. I think 7B, if you have decent genetics and you're in the sport for a reasonable time, it should definitely be reachable for quite a big, a broad spectrum of climbers, right? So that's that. I'm gonna jump down again, skipping a couple of questions. Sorry, guys. If you want your question to stand out, then drop a super chat. I'm gonna always prefer super chats. Ishan HM, but aren't humans supposed to be great long distance runners? Interesting question, actually. Interesting question. I'm not so sure. Are we really? There is certain tribes in Africa, for example, which develop this kind of hunting technique where they just follow an animal for ages, right? They chase down that animal at a comparatively low speed, and at some people the animal just gets so tired and they catch it, and that's how they hunt it, right? They follow this animal for I don't know, 10 hours or something. But is this really the most efficient way to hunt? I mean, it's probably a relatively safe way to hunt, because the success is almost guaranteed if you manage to find the tracks of this animal, and you still can track it for 10 hours, right? You don't lose it. It's probably a relatively safe way to hunt, but is it the most energy efficient way? For me, the typical way of hunting, or the relatively energy efficient way of hunting, is what most carnivores do, actually, and that is this kind of hide and seek thing. They set traps, right? Good smart hunters set traps, and the carnivores do it like that. They just simply hide in the brush. For example, a tiger or something, they have these stripes on the sides of their body so that they are camouflaged really well, so that they themselves, they are the trap, right? They put themselves into the grass and they wait until this animal comes really close. They recognize the wind, and the wind has to go away from them so that the scent of themselves doesn't reach the prey, right? And then they sprint, right? When the trap closes, they sprint, and they sprint for 5 seconds, maybe 10. And if they would have to sprint for longer than 10 seconds, then they failed already anyway, because usually these small kind of prey animals, they are very quickly, and they run away very, very, very quickly, and they don't get it if they don't get it instantly, right? So this is how most carnivores run and hunt. This is also the most energy conservative way, I think, and probably this is how we used to do it as well. And obviously we can set much more sophisticated and much smarter traps than these animals can do. We don't have to spend any effort at all. I mean, even aside from all the modern hunting devices, we're not talking about that, right? I mean, that's crazy stuff anyway. To shoot with a gun at an animal is this is just such a huge overkill, right? This is completely out of competition. But even in tribes, like wild living people, they set really sophisticated traps, and they can hunt that way very energy conservatively. And this is very healthy, right? This is very fit in terms of evolution. This and biology. This provides a lot of fitness, because you're less endangered to break a leg when you're not having to run for this long time. You have a number of advantages that way, right? And we can do it. We have dexterous hands. We have a well-developed brain. These are our weapons, even in the wild. Nowadays, I mean, this got kind of out of got kind of out of control with all the guns and everything, right? But yeah. Supposed to be long distance runners. I'm not so sure about that. Roland B. Hey, servus. Dere Roland. Ich hoffe, alles ist leiwand. Let's see. Jordan E. When did you start climbing and how did you progress per year? I started when I was 17, roughly. That was 2007, probably. And I started in a gym, did the gym, only gym for 2 to 3 years, then got outdoors for the first time, climbed roughly 7A plus or something. And after I did my first 7A plus, it went up really quickly to 8A over the course of half a year. Then I stalled out, waited 1 year, did my first 8A plus, then did my first 8B in the same year, stalled out again. And this is how I progressed. I made a video about my personal max grade history really shortly ago. You can check that out. Naruto Uzumaki, nice. Posted the question, do you actually take extra care of the tips of your fingernails, etc.? No, not really. I just use a nail clipper and sandpaper and this kind of stuff. No secrets there. Maybe one secret which I can really recommend if you want some skincare, if you want to assist somewhat the natural healing of your skin, try raw animal fats, the kind of beef tallow, lamb fat, this sheep fat kind of stuff, raw animal fats. It is important that it's raw, and it is important that it's not butter, because butter is a little bit acidic even when it's raw, so this doesn't work. But all the other kind of raw animal fats like tallow, really amazing for skin health, really amazing for regeneration of the skin. So, and super cheap as well, right? So you can skip all this super expensive creams and whatnot that is already out there, which is essentially out there to make money, right? So you want to skip that anyway. And who knows what's in there, right? What kind of additives and preservatives and whatnot. I mean, they all claim to be natural because they want to really, they want to speak to this kind of audience, the alternative, only organic eating audience and that. But the best is just raw animal fats. Naruto Uzumaki, this is something that's been on my mind since. I've been biting nails when I was little and stopped. Interesting. The nail biting thing is really interesting. I think it's a way of dealing with a very agitated mind, right? It's probably you had a lot of carbs in your diet or stuff like that, stuff along these lines. Lots of carbs, they make you very agitated and kind of nervous. And then you need some sort of some ventil. What's ventil in English? You need a valve, or I don't know how to put it, to get rid of this nervousness. And this I could imagine that's why people do nail bite. This is also why people, and I did this as well back in my vegan days, actually, because I was very high carb vegan, purely high carb vegan. Actually, back in my vegan days, I used to do teeth grinding in the night, right? Because I always had this kind of tension in my body. I was like, also dreaming about teeth grinding and then waking up and doing teeth grinding. And I think these things, these kind of tics that you develop with your body, they have their roots maybe in a very agitated mind, and maybe a little bit less carbs, a bit more fats, to calm the mind down, to calm the nerves. This is what really helps with these things. And also some people say that biting fingernails could have something to do with nutritional deficiencies, because there's actually some proteins and some minerals in fingernails that you can recycle that way when you're biting them. So yeah, could have something to do with that. It's an interesting topic, actually. Roland B says, Roland, jetzt ist wieder aufgesprungen. Warte, schau. Im Müllviertel wird gerade wieder gut erschlossen. Schöner rauer Granit. Oh, das hört sich gut an, Roland. Ja, Ich muss wieder mal in den Norden, weil dort sind ein paar wirklich gute Bouldering-Areas, die müssen attackiert werden. Und außerdem ist nicht zu weit entfernt dort das Frankenjura, welches ebenfalls einer Attacke bedarf. Schon hier ernsthaft, yeah. So yeah, I'm really psyched to go also again to the north of Austria and do some bouldering because there's actually awesome stuff there. And also the Frankenjura needs a visit. Yeah, so much to do, man, so little time. Raul Gonzalez, do you have any experience with A2 pulley injuries? And if so, what kind of rehab do you use? Second time, you skipped to the beginning, right? When my question was up. Sorry, Raul. But amazing that I can get to it now. Yes, I have a lot of experience with this kind of injuries, with this kind of overuse. I think I had the injury, the A2 pulley stuff, at almost every finger of my hands twice or more, actually, apart from my thumbs and my pinkies. So pointer, index finger, middle finger, and ring finger, I had the A2 thing, I think, twice already, at least with every finger. Yeah, what happens is that you get stronger. You get stronger on smaller holes. You try harder stuff. Your tendons can't keep up with the progress. They get inflamed. They tell you to reduce the intensity, and you better obey them. Okay, you better obey them, reduce the intensity, climb beyond the pain threshold, and try to climb with time the injury away. Don't stop climbing altogether. In my opinion, this is not the way to go, because if you come back from this rest, then the injury is just gonna flare up again, and you're gonna feel like you've never progressed in any way, shape, or form. So you really want to keep climbing, but beyond the pain threshold. This is hard to do psychologically a little bit, because we always want to push, especially if we progressed before the injury really rapidly. We're kind of bummed out that we cannot keep up this progress any longer. But this is how you have to do it, man. You just climb these kind of injuries away. Sometimes it takes months. So be prepared for a struggle. It could take up to 6 months, could take up to a year even, okay? So yeah, these kind of things take time, depending also obviously on the starting age, again, your genetics and your age in general. I mean, if you're already 60 years old, then obviously these processes go a lot slower than when you're super young, right? So yeah, I would climb it away. I'm not a big fan of taping either. Okay, so a lot of people would advise you now to tape this kind of super sophisticated way, and this way you can support your A2 pulley, and then it doesn't have to bear so much force during climbing. I think we don't want that. Okay, give your pulley the chance to bear the full force in climbing, no problem, but rather reduce the full force by going below your pain threshold. Because what's happening when you're taping like this is that you take away natural forces from the structure, and this way it's kind of a little bit confused. It's thinking, wait, I used to do this all the time. This is how I laid out my collagen fibers. Now you're giving me this new stimulus with this strange tape. Now I lay down my collagen fibers slightly differently. And then when you put the tape away again, when you give it away again, you have again another stimulus, and then it has to readapt again. So I think it's rather better to keep the stimulus the same and just reduce the intensity of the stimulus for a given amount of time until the inflammation cools down, and then your body will tell you naturally to go hard again. Kate, what's up, Manny? Potential drawbacks and effects of focusing almost exclusively on body position and technique for a second-year climber, tall, 7C red point. Potential drawbacks and effects of focusing almost exclusively on body tension and technique for a second-year climber. So you're in your second year and you're climbing 7C. That's pretty nice, actually. That's pretty good. You're in your second year, so focusing on body position and technique will still not be a waste of time. You probably can still learn something new. Also, your max grade would suggest that to me, because for me, quote unquote, magical border is like kind of this 8A grade, okay? I think if you red pointed your first 8A, then you have learned in terms of technique, climbing technique, and we're talking about real climbing technique here, drop knees, flagging, gastons, heel hooks, and whatnot. You've learned 80% of that. So there's not really, this is the law of diminishing returns, right? The amount of improvement that you can get from getting even more better in reading technique and whatnot is relatively small compared to the amount of improvement that you could get if you just improve your finger strength to body weight ratio at this point, at this given 8A point. So I estimated at about 80%, right? If you're climbing for your first 8A, you've learned 80% of all the techniques that you can use in rock climbing. It's not that complicated beyond that 8A anymore in terms of technique. It rather stays similar, and I'm pretty sure there's technically a lot more simple 8Bs out there than 8As, right? They can be very technical 8As and super simple 8Bs. So just because a route is hard doesn't mean it's technically challenging. It just can be also just a super simple lock off on just a super bad hold, which just requires your super big finger strength to body weight ratio. So here we have the law of diminishing returns. Beyond 8A, focusing on technique is not that much of an issue anymore, because if you wouldn't have had this kind of technique, then you wouldn't have gotten to 8A in the first place. But you're still at 7C, you're still only in your second year of climbing. So I suppose there is still something that you can learn in terms of technique. So it's not a big waste of time if you keep focusing on technique, especially if you do it in a kind of way that you keep increasing your mileage. You just keep increasing your mileage, always having side projects apart from your main project, get that mileage in, get sends done, get routes done. Also always try on-sighting and flashing and this kind of stuff. And this way you will naturally develop. So we're jumping down into the chat again. What do we have here? Rovan Ferverda says, part 2, what would you say is the most important physical attribute that's easy/quick to train? Wow, good question, actually. The most important physical attribute that's easy/quick to train. The most important physical attribute in climbing is easily finger strength. This is an easy answer. I'm just not sure if it's also the one that is quick to train. Because actually, if you're grinding at the if you're grinding at the genetical limit of your finger strength already, it's super hard to go beyond that. And as we know from certain studies which they conducted on school kids, finger strength is hugely genetic. So they conducted a finger strength test on school kids and found out that even from kids the same age, like in the 10-year, 11-year, 13-year category, and that kind of stuff, finger strength is different up to 300% or something like that. So some kids of that age have 3 times more finger strength than others of that age. So obviously, if you want to be a good climber, you probably want to be in the upper percentage of this range, right? Of course, these children, they are also at different stages of their development at that kind of age. So that kind of destroys the significance of this study a little bit. But we see that finger strength is hugely genetic. That means if you're grinding at your genetic limit, you cannot do it. You cannot progress it very easily. So the easiest to train, maybe quick to train, and still a very physical attribute is body strength. Very necessary as well for hard outdoor climbing, especially in overhangs, to step those little tiny footholds down there and don't lose your feet. And something that is very easy and very quick to train is the Swiss handstand. This is always something that I recommend people. If you want to make some real quick progress in your body strength game for climbing, and this exercise actually translates very well into climbing, contrarily to a lot of other exercises which are promoted a lot, try this stuff out. Really amazing. You do just a couple of, at the beginning you can't do more than 5 minutes of this kind of training anyway. So this is what I would call quick to train and easy to train, right? You put 5 minutes in per week, or maybe 2 times a week, and you get a lot better already. And I suppose this is because the muscles are already there. We just don't use them a lot in everyday life, and we still have to rebuild the mind-muscle connection with the Swiss handstand. This is something that seems to work really well. Google it, give it into YouTube, put it into YouTube and look for Swiss handstand tutorials, train this kind of stuff. And this is really easy. Okay, so here we have something. Kevin Binder, have you done long alpine climbs like Steinerweg on Dachstein? No, I think is this a Klettersteig? It's a Via Ferrata? Any multi-pitches in Hochschwab? No. I did one multi-pitch on the Hohe Wand in Lower Austria, and that's pretty much it. I also did one multi-pitch in the Herrental, which is also in Lower Austria, I think. That was actually epic times because we climbed to the half of the multi-pitch. I think it was 5 pitches or something, and then a huge thunderstorm came. I completely wetted my pants, to be honest, because it was super loud. Lightning was coming down left, right, and center. And with multi-pitches in that area, it's usually more of the slabby kind, right? It's more of the slabby kind. And this huge thunderstorm cell just rained down on us, and the whole freaking slab turned into a waterfall, right? And we're hanging in there, this kind of waterfall, lightning left, right, and center, super loud thunders, waterfalls. I mean, it was like, okay, we are completely slaves of the elements now. If the climbing gods want to kill us now, we are basically done at this point. And we kept rappelling down, so ropes super wet, right? Yeah, it was a pretty nice adventure, and I think this is what you do this kind of stuff for anyway, right? You don't want to do super hard moves on multi-pitches. You'd rather do it for the adventure factor, and that is what we got that day, definitely. But other than that, no, I'm not big into multi-pitching yet, because I feel like I want to just push my general overall difficulty as much as possible. Carl, climbing. Wow, this looks like a big question. Hi Manny, you said earlier that finger strength is very important to progress. Yeah, correct. However, mine is already quite high. Personal best plus 10 kilograms on the 23 millimeter Beastmaker 2000, one-handed or not. And people in my gym make fun of me by saying that I'm actually a bad climber compared to my maximum score outdoors 8B and indoors 8B+. Well, that's a good score. But as you said, I don't think it's a question of technique, because I've been climbing for almost 7 years now. So what would be the solution in your opinion? Yeah, maybe. I mean, if you're hanging one-handed with plus 10 kilograms on a 23 millimeter Beastmaker 2000 edge, which I don't know now, because I suppose it's one-handed, because the 23 millimeter is the middle one, right? Then you're definitely below your limit. You could climb possibly 8C plus, maybe even 9A with this kind of strength, right? So maybe you're that kind of guy who just was too strong, quote unquote, too strong for his entire climbing career. These kind of dudes exist, and they always find super hard solutions on every climb. They make every climb harder than it actually has to be, because they can, right? Because they have so much finger strength. I got accused of that actually as well a lot by my climbing friends back in the day, because I always I was more of a bouldery kind of guy. I trained a lot of on the 45er in a very old school gym with very small holds, and that's why I got relatively big finger strength quite early in my climbing career, relatively early. And so I always found stupidly hard solutions on climbs, and I actually could do them. And then I projected the climbs that way and needed a lot more attempts that way than I could have actually have gotten on that route, right? So maybe you're that kind of guy as well. You're just too strong, man. Try to view the climbing world through a weaker perspective and find better solutions. Maybe that could be your key. I don't know, because I don't know what kind of climber you are, but it's usually with these kind of guys that are super strong in the fingers, but still not, but still far away from what they actually should be able to pull with that kind of strength. Maybe you're just always going for too hard solutions, man. And again, this is this really technique? Yes, of course it's technique, but it's more also strategy game, right? That kind of is also experience. The more experience you have with a certain grade, the more routes you did in a certain grade, the more you can estimate how hard this grade should feel for you, and then you can get a perspective on, is this the right solution that I found for this or that problem? Right? If it feels too hard, then maybe you should go for something easier. But for you, it doesn't feel too hard because you have the kind of finger strength and you just power through. And maybe you're making out of your 8 max 8B that you have outdoors, maybe you made an 8C out of it, right? Or maybe even an 8C plus. Who knows? Yeah. This kind of thing. Try to be more efficient with your power. That's all I can say. Whether that means for you having better technique, if you say you have good technique after 7 years of climbing, then maybe you're only always finding the too hard solutions. There's not really another another option for this problem, right? If you don't lack the technique and you have the kind of finger strength and you always do efficient solutions, then you should climb 9A at this point with that kind of strength. I mean, the 23 millimeter Beastmaker edge is also still relatively big, relatively jaggy, quote unquote. Maybe you could also, if that's the only thing you trained all the time, and now you're super good at that edge, but for example, you're super bad at the next smaller edge, then maybe you just got too focused onto this kind of edge. I don't know, but this is very unlikely. Usually, if you're that good at one edge, you're also quite decent at the other ones. At the smaller ones. One arm plus 10 kilograms as a maw hang on the 20, Beastmaker 2000. Yeah, okay, so we got that correctly. Okay, it says, thanks, man. No problem. Do you do any aerobic training totally besides climbing? Circuits, run, something like that? At the moment, not at all. And I have to say, even if I am in training, I rarely do anything endurance-y. Because first of all, I now live in an area where most routes are bouldery anyway. So I don't really need the endurance. And when I get to an endurance-y area, I just get the endurance really, really quickly over the course of maybe 2 weeks. And then I don't really feel the need to put myself to these kind of chores in a climbing gym or in a bouldering gym, even where I have to traverse, right? So yeah, no, really, at the moment not, and also not when I'm big into training. The system, max grade for a climber who started at 16 with decent genetics and a lot of motivation. Depends on what you mean with decent genetics, but I started with 17 and I would consider myself also decently genetically gifted, not super high genetically gifted, but also not super low. 8C plus at least, right? If you have my kind of motivation, and I would estimate my motivation as really high as well, especially back in the day when I started and progress was really rapid. So yeah, 8C plus, 9A, something like that, definitely possible. In the end, it will turn out how good your genetics really are, right? You really only learn this the closer you get to your limit, your genetic limit. Yellow carrot. Hey Manny, is it essential to do one arm hang instead of 2 arm hang to gain finger strength? No, not at all. You can also do 2 arm hangs with bonus weight, for example. But the 1 arm hang, I don't know, beyond a certain level is really cool because your mind can focus on one hand. And I think that you get a bit more out of your hang if your mind only has to focus on one hand instead of 2, right? This is a very theoretical thing. I can't really prove this with any scientific studies or whatnot, but it would be logical like that, right? Would be logical. So this way you could get an even intenser hang, and this way you would also get more training stimulus, and obviously after some time also more gains. Carl climbing again. Jet jumped down again, by the way. Sorry if I skipped the question. Carl climbing says again, I have to say that I only climb outdoor 2 to 3 times a year. Well, that's very little. And don't reach my plateau, in my opinion. Over the last 4 years, I gained a new grade from 8A to 8B+. Okay, I have to read that again. I have to say that I only climb out, and don't reach my plateau, in my opinion. You mean your limit? You don't reach a plateau. Over the last 4 years, I gained a new grade. So over the last 4 years, you gained from 8A to 8B+. Yeah, I mean, if you want to increase your outdoor performance, the number one thing that's most important is actually climbing outdoors, obviously. It's, as I said, the more we are advancing in this kind of professional climbing sport, plastic climbing thing, the more these two sports actually diverge away from each other. And at the moment, presently, we actually can speak of two different kind of sports, especially if we look at modern indoor bouldering. This is something completely different than, depends on the route setters, depends on the gyms, but if it's a super modern gym with lots of coordinative stuff, then it's actually different sports. Video Maker says, hey Manny, thanks for the content you give us. Question: I am 171 centimeters with a -4 ape index, weight 66 kilograms, good strength to weight ratio. Have been bouldering for 1 year, 60 plus. Do you think I can ever do an 8A? Yes, for sure. Yes, for sure you can do an 8A boulder, of course. 171 centimeters with -4 ape index is really short, though. It's really short. You definitely will have to look for something that suits your style. Look for the girly problems. Okay, that's what I can tell you. Because with -4 ape index, that means you have a span of 167, and that's 6 centimeters less than I have. And I already have the impression that I am really short on a lot of harder boulder problems. But go for the girly problems. If you have good to strength to weight ratio, you just need something with small moves and crappy holds. Okay, crappy as hell holds, and then you can go to 8A for sure. Gustav Nordvik, what's your favorite video you've made? Favorite video I've made? Wow. Interesting question. The favorite video I've made. I don't know, man. I made a couple of really good videos, I would say. In terms of the most educational value, one of the favorite videos that I actually made in terms of educational value is the how to belay dynamically video. I think this covers everything I know about dynamic belaying and belaying properly in, I don't know how long is that video, 15 minutes, 20 minutes or something. I think this lesson could save people out there 2 hours with a climbing instructor in a gym, right? And maybe even beyond that, because I don't think that climbing instructors necessarily go into the detail that I go into that video, in that video. So yeah, this, I know that I've saved for a lot of people out there. I saved a lot of money, and that's amazing. That's good to know. That feels good to know that. And yeah, in terms of educational value, this is one of the favorite videos I've made. In terms of sentimental value, or maybe artistic value, let me think. Hard to say. There's also some uncut ascents that I really, really like, right? That I really enjoy, because they resemble a certain spot in my climbing. For example, the Selbstlicher uncut descent. Although I completely messed it up and I put horrible music over it, but back then I found this kind of stuff cool, right? So I kind of messed that one up, but it was a nice shot from above. And really, I had this route down so well, man. I was in it for over 70 goes. I'm gonna post a video about that actually next week. It's gonna be interesting, hopefully. This route has a lot of this shot has a lot of value to me because I was putting so much effort into that perfect shot, and usually when you're trying a route for 70 goes or more, the chance that you get someone to film you just on the ascent is very little, right? Because you already put so much effort in, and who knows when it happens. But this time it just happened so perfectly, and we got this nice shot of the route, and yeah, everything came together perfectly with the help of the climbing god. So that was really amazing. So in terms of sentimental value, maybe this uncut descent. Wow, we've got some super chats here. Nice. Oh, Lucian Parao, what's up, man? How are you doing? How are you doing? Hey, man, you trained me in Vienna. Yes, of course I remember, man. You're the strong guy. I still see some Instagram posts of you, actually. You trained me in Vienna around 3 years ago, and since I made big progress from 7A boulder to 7B plus boulders, great, with several 7A plus on sites. Amazing. I remember you were vegan back then. Why the change? Oh, huge topic, man. I started experimenting again because I had the feeling I was not functioning optimally in certain areas of my health. That's how I can tell it in a very general. If you want me to go into more detail, and I guess you have the right for that because you made a super chat. Amazing. Skin health, hair health, also reproductive health, right? Things like sex drive and this kind of stuff. Very interesting topic as well. How it is connected with diet, even how things like character and that kind of stuff are connected with diet, because there are connections. You can influence the state of human being that you are and the way you interact with other people with your diet. Okay, this is not confined to the psychological thing, and then you have to go to the psychiatrist to fix you. No, you can fix yourself with diet. Not everything, of course, but certain things. But in terms of just the pure physical stuff, it's skin health, having a healthy body weight, because I have the feeling that back then I was climbing the hard climbs that I did because I was just very light. Okay, I had a lot of endurance because I had a lot of carbohydrate storage in my body. I was able to store a huge amount of carbohydrates in my body, which is something that in terms of athletic performance is something good. But I think in terms of general health and longevity, it is something bad, actually. Rather, you want to keep the level of carbs that you crush, that you push through your body, on the lower side. That's what it seems to me like, viewing it from the modern perspective, from my current perspective. I mean, the modern perspective on this kind of stuff, the mainstream perspective, is going more and more into the direction of plant-based, right? You see advertisements for this kind of stuff more and more. Also, more people than ever are plant-based or vegan and whatnot. So these things are reoccurring to me over and over again, while I myself have kind of left this stuff behind for my reasons. As I said, for a couple of health reasons, I have realized that athletic performance does not equal health at all. Okay, it doesn't even have anything closely to do with each other. You can push yourself in terms of athletic performance into an unhealthy range really easily with a lot of things, with steroid use. I mean, not that I would compare a high carb diet or something with steroid use, but a high carb diet does the same thing somehow, because it makes you really it makes you really quick and agitated and motivated usually as well. And you want to burn these carbs off, right? Your body wants to burn these carbs off. If you combine high carb diets with a lot of exercise, you're going to burn these carbs off and you're going to get shredded as hell because you don't get any fats, right? But this is not something that is very healthy and positive for longevity. You want to have fats in your body. You want to have a decent ability also for fat metabolism in your body. And what are the good fats that we as humans can consume out there? It's definitely not the plant oils. It's definitely not, especially not the processed oils, of course, but also not all the nuts and seeds and that kind of stuff, which is very promoted nowadays. It is more in the raw animal fats. Okay, these are fats that, for example, I can eat in abundance and do not feel any discomfort on my skin or anywhere else. Whereas oils, they dry the skin. Okay, they dry the skin. They give me pimples and everything. They make the skin. They make it kind of dry but oily at the same time, right? You get this kind of dandruff on your head. This is also something that comes from the carbs a lot. Stuff on the toes, right? You know, this kind of fungus things on the toes, which is what climbers usually struggle with because we are in these super tight climbing shoes all the time, which is another thing that's probably not so healthy. But if you're having a good physical constitution, then you can stand this stuff, right? But you need some sort of, at some point you have to ask yourself the question, do you want to push yourself even no matter the cost into athletic performance? Then you have to go down the high carb, relatively low fat route, in my opinion, especially with sports where a very low body weight is desired. And climbing is just the pinnacle of these kind of sports, right? Maybe we've got also ultra endurance running, and look at these people. Look at these people honestly and ask yourself if they look as healthy as they can be in that kind of state when they are running. I would argue rather not. And I've just made for me the conclusion that I want to have the best of both worlds, right? I want to have good, decent athletic performance, but I also want to have good, decent longevity. I want to be able to have relationships, to have decent social skills and whatnot. Maybe you're thinking now, how can this be connected with diet? But it actually is. It actually is, okay? And funnily enough, the lonely city warrior kind of mindset is something that really often results from a vegan diet, for example, because you're putting yourself a little bit on a pedestal and you think that you're better than a lot of other people. Narrows down your possible friends a lot, right? This is something that you shouldn't do. You become a bit more unlikable. This is not necessarily something bad, because going against the mainstream nowadays is almost always something good. Okay, because we we developed in such crazy directions nowadays. I'm getting super off topic here, by the way, but no problem. Let's discover this fully, okay? And back in the days when I went vegan, this was the way to be against the mainstream, right? If you do the vegan thing nowadays, you're almost on the mainstream. This is the mainstream, right? And the mainstream is going into the direction of more plant-based, more vegan options and whatnot. But ask yourself this: what is the best for sustainable agriculture and in terms of resources, in terms of transport? What is the best? How can you avoid the supermarket the best? As a vegan, you cannot avoid the supermarket. It's impossible, right? You cannot avoid the supermarket. You want to have your mock meats from time to time. You need your rice. You need your vegetables. You can grow your vegetables if you dare to try, but it's super much effort. You can grow with the same amount of effort. You can grow just so much more calories and healthy calories, that is, in an animal product kind of form. For example, you can have backyard hens. Okay, backyard hens have no effort at all, and they give you super high quality nutrition. So nothing, no vegetable garden could replace backyard hands, right? And yeah, this way you don't have to support the big bad egg industry, right? So it's not that you don't have to be vegan to go against the mainstream and to reject what's wrong in the world. Okay, there's a number of things wrong in the world, and actually plant-based things and vegan things further some of these developments, right? It furthers modern agriculture. It furthers monoculture. If you want to go to your small local farmer, you want to exclude the transport stuff, you want to exclude the supermarket, well, then you go to your local farmer and get some locally raised, wonderfully treated animal foods. And yeah, this is my modern perspective. I know it's going to piss a lot of people off because I have in my audience a very I think in my audience, it is the climbers audience, right? And in my audience, there's a lot of people who are very into this whole plant-based stuff. I was in there as well, so I don't blame anyone. Of course, you explore these possibilities because you see that it gives you good performance. You step on the scale, you see that you're lighter. Back then, I thought, oh wow, I'm so shredded, I'm so lean, I'm so healthy, right? I was laughing at my grandma when she said, "Oh, you look so bad. Why don't you eat a bit more?" and all that kind of stuff. Now I can understand what she means. I look a lot more juicy and a lot more healthy, to be honest. That's my modern perspective than I was looking back then. But of course, I'm heavier, right? It's bad for climbing performance, but probably better in terms of longevity and also reproductive health. And at some point, you just, you want to make gains in other areas in life. You want to have a family maybe and all this kind of stuff. And you would be surprised how much this is actually involved in this as well, nutrition, right? Super big topic. I hope I answered it to your satisfaction. We've got other super chats coming in here. One from Chili Jad, donated €5. Thanks, Chili Jad. Bigly appreciated. Lucien Parent, by the way, was £10. Interesting currency, man. Are you in the Brits at the moment? We got another super chat cruising in from Joestia, €5. Thanks, man. That's appreciated. Manny, love ya. Thanks, man. 2 weeks ago, I injured my wrist. TFCC in brackets. TFCC. What's that? Could you write down what that is? Is it okay to start climbing lower grades, minimum/no pain or complete rest? Thoughts on TFCC injuries? Can you? You're in the UK, Lucian. Okay, nice to know. Thoughts on? Yeah, what's TFCC? Could you write that out? Triangular fibrocartilage complex. Okay. Triangular fibrocartilage complex. Let me see. I'm just interested in, probably my answer is going to be the same that I always say to injuries that came over time. Okay. Triangular fibrocartilage complex. Es ist a triangularly formed Faserknorpel bestehende Zwischengelenkscheibe am Handgelenk. Diese wurde das da. Okay. I suppose. So this came from an abrupt injury. If it came from an abrupt injury, like, okay, you jumped to this kind of hold, you hit it strangely, and then it started to hurt, and maybe you heard something tear apart or something, and since then it hurts, maybe it's a bit swollen as well. Well, then I would consider resting completely for a couple of days to get the inflammation down, get back into a normal state in your wrist. And from there, you move on with climbing below your pain threshold and trying to get your body constitution to where it was before the injury, right? This is what I always say, climb below your pain threshold. But with abrupt injuries is obviously something different. You cannot climb someone who ripped his A2 pulley apart to climb beyond the pain threshold. This person should not climb at all. This person should consider maybe even getting a surgery done to reattach the A2 pulley and to give your body actually a chance to heal that kind of stuff, right? Certain things don't heal or only heal really badly if you don't have some sort of surgical intervention. This is actually the number one strength of modern medicine, by the way. Surgical intervention methods that we did not have hundreds of years ago. They are really amazing at this kind of stuff. The other kind of directions that modern medicine is moving into is really questionable, but here they are really good. So we should make use of that if we need it. If it's an abrupt injury, again, take it easy for some days, maybe take some days completely off, try to get the inflammation down, reduce the swelling. If it's swollen, probably it is, because these things tend to swell if it's in the wrist area and stuff. And when you get back on track, your body will tell you naturally to grab things again, and you will feel it also in your everyday life, in your all-day life, that the pain goes down. And then you just climb again, below pain threshold, get back into a routine. That's all I can really say about it. Thanks for the super chats, guys. Amazing. Chili chat. Chat is jumping down again. I'm going with the more recent ones. Chili chat, I took your advice last week to project 7C/8A boulder. Now I have done all the moves on an 8A and 7C. Thanks. Amazing. I started climbing 1 year ago when I was 16. I started fingerboarding from day one. Wow, that's actually a pretty aggressive strategy. Usually I don't recommend anyone to fingerboard who is below, let's say, 2 years of experience. I, for example, started with around, I think, 4 years of experience, or even 5. From day one, but have never gotten injured, probably because my fingers are always stronger than my grade. Yeah, okay, good. If that's the case. Chili chat, I had that wrist injury. Reverse wrist curls will save your life. Okay. This is an advice for the super chat from before, from the wrist injury. I had that wrist injury. Reverse wrist curls will save your life, but mine was mild. There you go. Reverse wrist curls. Could be something to look into. Chili chat, hopefully now he will see it. Yeah. By the way, very nice. How did you get to 8A in a year? That's crazy. That's pretty crazy, actually. 8A bouldering is pretty crazy, especially when we're talking about outdoors. I don't know if that's outdoors or indoors. I mean, with indoor things, it always can be that you just do this one super big dyno and you're super tall and they graded 8A. But outdoors 8A, that requires some serious finger strength already. So if you're getting to 8A after 1 year, and you was 16, you have a great career in front of you, man. You have a great climbing career in front of you. I wish you all the best. Be careful that you don't injure yourself. Probably you're doing a lot more than your pulleys and tendons can take at the moment, and joints. So take it easy from time to time. Don't rip something, right? Only overuse and then climb it away. Overuse, climb it away. Overuse, climb it away. Don't rip something. Don't destroy something completely. Jordan Heller. Hey Manny, I have been climbing for around 8 months now, and I am now projecting V6 flashing V4/5. What is a reasonable goal for 1 year from now? Okay, we're having 8 months now, and I'm projecting V6. V11 is 8A, V10 is 7C+, V9 is 7C, V8 is 7B+, V7 is 7B, V6 is 7A+. So you're projecting 7A+, you're flashing V4, V5, that's 7A, 6C+, or along these lines, and you're 8 months in. Reasonable goal from 1 year from now. The crazy moped drivers are on their way already again this evening. Reasonable 1 year. Well, you got to flashing 7A in 8 months. Yeah, maybe you could in 1 year flash what you're projecting now. That's around 7B, 7A plus, 7B maybe. And your project grade could be, if you keep that up, keep that kind of progress up, could be already at 7C or something. Obviously depends on your genetics, but I would go with 7C. You should be able to do that. That is V. I always have to count it. I'm so bad in remembering this kind of stuff. Yankee Doodle grading is something that I still don't get. I'm sorry, guys. I always have to calculate. So that's V9, I think. Right? V9 is 7C. So maybe 1 year from now, yeah, you could go to something along the lines of V8, V9. Projecting grade and flashing something along the lines of V5, V6. Definitely. That's my estimation. Julian Neubacher, hello. Let's assume that there is a route A I climbed which goes straight up, and there is a route B which starts with A and then goes on its own to the left. Can I still tick route B as an onsight? No, you can't. Let's assume that there is a route A I climbed which goes straight up, yeah, and there's a route B which starts with A and then goes on its own. Yeah, no, you can't onsight it anymore. You already did some moves actually of route A. Route A is part of route B, so that means you already did some moves of route B. That means you can neither flash it or onsight it anymore. You can only second go it in that situation. This is actually a good question, because it is very crucial if you get to a crag for the first time and so you're already a bit more advanced into the climbing sport and you get to a really good crag for the first time. So then there's always this couple of lines which come into relevance for you to try as a flash or an onsight. And often enough, they start with other routes, right? They have maybe an easier route and they go out of the easier route and have a different exit. And then you're kind of you're always kind of forced to strategize about these things. Am I gonna try the easy route for onsight for warming up, but then I can't onsight or flash the hard exit anymore? Should I go for the hard exit instantly, but then I have no proper warm up and all these? This is then we're stepping into the terrain of strategy, right? This is strategy with rock climbing. Another topic that is actually super interesting, but it only becomes relevant if you're already decently long enough into the sport and have experience with what you can onsight, what you can flash, and you also have to have the psych for onsighting actually, right? Because some people are not into that kind of stuff at all. They're only into projecting. Others, on the other hand, are only into onsighting, right? They never try a route more than 2 times. They fail the flash or the onsight and then they try a second go, and then they are so pissed off that they move on to the next project or they send it, right? So there's these two types of climbers and everything in between of that spectrum, obviously. But yeah, this is how you strategize. You have to strategize sometimes with the crags you get to, especially if you're coming to a new crag. Will max hang training help for lead climbing? Yes, it will. Lucian Parao, I will agree with Chili Chad on the reverse wrist curls. Okay. Also, power fingers saved my life. I used them every day after climbing. I perforated 3 ligaments in my wrists. Wow, okay. Power fingers. I think power fingers, is it the kind of thing that you pull outwards all the time, and this way you train your extensors or something like that? I just type into Google power fingers. Yeah, it's this kind of rubber band thing. The rubber band thing. Okay, nice. Yeah, if that helps, great advice. Something to try out at least, right? Won't damage anything. Matt Baird, do you periodize your training, like break up strength, power, and power endurance into multiples few week long sections? I used to do that in the past. But nowadays, I'm more like, when I'm training indoors, it's usually max strength. It's usually on a 45er, maybe a little bit more into the direction of power endurance, but that's the most deviation from max strength that it gets. I just feel that for me, this is my limiting factor. Although I'm already quite decent when it comes to max strength, but it is my limiting factor still if I want to progress into even harder terrain. And this is also why I want to do some outdoor bouldering now again, because now I had the outdoor endurance stimulus from the Greece trip. So I'm quite saturated at the moment when it comes to endurance. Now it would be the time to do some outdoor bouldering to balance that out again. So I've actually periodized my training, if you want, so that way that I try to mix up outdoor stimuli. And when I'm forced to train indoors because it's bad weather, bad conditions, whatever, then I train bouldering usually on the indoors on a 45er. And as I said, if I'm in an endurance mood or stuff like that, then I try maybe some circles of power endurance, but nothing too significant. It's still mostly just raw strength, raw power. This is what I do, what I like the most, what I feel has the most benefits as well for me at this point in my climbing. Corksy Adventures. Oh wow, there's another super chat coming in. Well, just answer quickly the Corksy Adventures question. What do you think about 4 training days that contain moonboard, beastmaker, campus board, and a normal session? You mean one on every day? Moonboard, beastmaker, campus board, and a normal session? Yeah, in that back to back. Pretty hard sequence, I would say. But yeah, putting the moonboard first would probably be a good strategy. Putting the campus board after the beastmaker is probably not such a good strategy. And the normal session in the end, yeah, I would definitely place a rest day in between those, at least at some point. Coming to the super chat. Wow, Roland B. Thanks, man. 20 Euros. Donated 20 Euros. Bin in gut 4 Wochen in Bad Blumont. Oh. Wie schaut es mit einer gemeinsamen Trainingssession auf der Andromeda Wall aus? Genaues Datum schreibe ich dir noch, schreibe ich dir noch PS. Videos, Livestreams wie immer top bei dir. Danke, Roland. Danke, Roland. Thanks, Roland. That's really appreciated. Yeah, cool. Bad Blumont. There is a like the thermal waters there, right? Some warm water bath or something. Sounds amazing. Yeah, man, of course. I would be psyched for it. I would be up for it, definitely. But we have to be careful because the climbing gym in Fürstenfeld still has restricted opening sessions. I think at this point it is only open at Tuesday always. At least there is not.
For the chip owners.
Yeah, for the chip owners, it's open all the time, or at the regular opening times at least. But if you are a chip owner, and I think you don't, and I'm not a chip owner at this point at the moment as well. And at the moment I'm not working there, right? Because there's very limited workspace, and again, the opening is still restricted. But I think they are open only on Tuesday for the normal public, right? So but I would contact Torsten, who is the boss, the big boss of the climbing gym, so to say, and I think we can get an appointment in 4 weeks. Yeah, man. Let me know when you're there. For sure we can get in. And then we have an epic Andromeda Wall session. Yeah, man, I would really look forward to that, actually. But then I have to get back in shape as well, because at the moment I'm actually doing big time rest after this Greece trip. I'm really saturated with a lot of outdoor climbing, so I do a couple of I had a couple of rest weeks already, and I plan to keep up the resting, man. I feel it does the body really well at the moment. Das wäre genial, super. Yeah, I would be up for it. Write me when you're here exactly, and we can make an appointment for sure. Thanks for the donation, man. Really appreciate it. Gook C. Chair asks, hi Manny, With what do you take an animal fats? Just joined the live stream. Don't know whether you answered that already. I was talking about raw animal fats shortly previously. I think they are awesome. With what do I take them? Well, for example, one thing that we do in recent times, because it's just so available to us right now, is since we have ripe cherries out there in the garden, we collect the cherries and then we do a kind of a milkshake. And I have my blender, you know it from previous recipes. I always made my smoothies in that kind of blender. I throw a banana in there, a couple of de-seeded cherries, then one relatively big sized knob of raw butter. Okay, and this is also important. If you have access to raw butter and it's summer, just leave it outside. Always have one portion of it outside so that you have access to soft raw butter, because soft raw butter is actually really mixable. Okay, so you throw it into the blender and then you fill it up with the kind of milk that we get from down there from a farmer. Actually, it's raw milk. It's untreated, not pasteurized. We fill it up, only a teaspoon of honey in there. Okay, and then you blend it, and this makes just an epic milkshake. Okay, it's really creamy and also has the sweetness from the fruit. And if you want to have it really next level, then you get a small little fine meshed sieve out, and you actually strain this milkshake through the sieve. This way you get all the fibers out from the cherries and from the banana. And then you have just this really smooth, creamy smoothie. And yeah, that's just epic for the warm days now, to have a beverage like that. So this is one option, for example, how you can get high quality raw fats into your body without just having to chew on a piece of raw fat or something like that, right? I mean, obviously that would be a kind of a crash course into the thing, but yeah, this is really tasty and really healthy. You can feel that this is also a lot more hydrating than just sipping water, right? In my opinion, at least. So on a hot day like that, amazing. Adam Sharma asks, hi Manny, do you consider yourself as gifted? Because climbing 8C isn't possible for everyone, of course. Gifted. I think I'm decently gifted. I've talked about this previously and recently. I'm decently gifted in that sense that I have not the worst genetics, but I don't have the best genetics either. The main reason where my genetics are not so good, the main area where my genetics are not so good, is my body weight. I am naturally, if I get to my natural body weight, which is where I'm at now, not back in the vegan days, okay? Back in the high carb vegan days, I was always fluctuating around 63 kilograms, which was very low for me. I was super thin. You can see it on my videos, okay? I had no cheeks. I was not juicy at all. I was super shredded. And this is something that is, okay, it's good for athletic performance, but it's not good for general health. Talked about it before. My natural weight, my healthy weight is more along the lines of 68, maybe even 69 kilograms. Okay, so that's quite a big jump. In terms of climbing performance, that's a huge jump. Okay, it's a different world. From 63 to 68 or even 69 kilos, that's almost 10%. Okay, 10% of the total weight. And in terms of climbing performance, it's a huge step. So here I could be a lot lighter. I know people that have my body morphology in terms of ape index and body height and only weigh around 60 kilograms naturally, okay, without having to diet or anything like that at all. So this is where you should be, right? This is what I would consider good genetics. If I would have this kind of genetics, I would have to call myself genetically actually super gifted. Because being 173 centimeters tall, having a decent ape index of 0, maybe +1 or something, and having 60 kilograms only, that's good. That's really nice. Having 68 or 69 kilograms is a bit too heavy. But other than that, I have very small fingers. That's good for small holes, good for pockets as well. I have very good finger strength, although I have the feeling that I have stalled out now pretty strongly. I've hit a wall that is pretty freaking resistant to me breaking through it in terms of finger strength. But I'm gonna try my best, and I will actually break it. I know, because in the meantime, I know the weapons that I have to utilize to do this kind of stuff, right? This is something that I learned with my experience, but yeah, the more you get into that terrain, the more you get into real limit terrain, the more things like strategy, conditioning, estimating conditions, estimating your own fitness becomes important. And this is something where I think I'm relatively good at again. Okay, so maybe I'm not 100% gifted regarding more body morphology, but in terms of how to use the resources that I have strategically for the best outcome, I think there I'm pretty good again. So yeah, we will try our best. We will try our best. Chat is jumping down again. Let's answer some more recent questions. The Burchailie says, "Hi Manny, another great Q&A. Most great comparison charts I've seen show V4 as 6B/6B plus. Okay, so here's one thing. I always look at the Wikipedia grade comparison chart. Okay, I'm gonna look it up now again. But I did not have the best feedback on that one. Actually, I get corrected a lot. So maybe the grades are just wrongly put into Wikipedia. Could that be? Let's see. Schwierigkeitsskalas klettern. So we go to the bouldering scale now. Let me see. V4 as 6B/plus, and on Wikipedia they say V4 is actually 6C. Interesting. Wikipedia says V4 is 6C FB block. And when we're looking at FB traversing, that's Fontainebleau block, Fontainebleau traversing, for those who don't know, they actually listed even as 6C plus. So yeah, according to Wikipedia, V4 is 6C, but I mean, it's Wikipedia for whatever that's worth, right? V6 as 7A, so let's see. V6 is actually 7A, also on Wikipedia, yeah. And V8 as 7B. We have a lot of areas in UK that use V grades. Okay, V8 is 7B. Let's see. V8 is 7B plus in Wikipedia. And yeah, so this is what I use for converting grades, right? The scale on Wikipedia. And according to Wikipedia, V11 is 8A, V10 is 7C plus, V9 is 7C, V8 is 7B plus, V7 is 7B, and V6 is 7A. And this is always what I have in mind for the Yankee Doodles out there. V10 is kind of the golden grade to reach, right? Because it's the full number, it's 10. And for us Europeans, 8A is kind of the golden grade to reach, because it's the step from the 7th grade to the 8th grade, right? So this is how I always, this is the Eselsbrücke in Germany that I have in German, that I have in my mind always for this kind of conversion. I don't know how correct the Wikipedia thing is though. So maybe I'm just working with something wrong here all the time. In that case, let me know. Kai Cheng Cheng. Greetings from Taiwan. Nice. Greetings from Austria, man. I hope you're having a great time in Taiwan. Me again. I found a grading system in Japan. Bouldering gym is super hard. Had you felt the difference on grading in another country? And how do you think about it? Yes, man. There's huge grade differences in different countries. Huge. Noticeable, okay? Significant. That is rather the word that I should use. Usually, and this is the thing that I have experience with, this is the Europeans. I've climbed in a lot of different spots in Europe, and very northern spots, and also very southern spots. Now again, very southern spots in Greece. Usually, I have the feeling that southern spots are a little bit more humanely graded, a little bit more softer graded than middle European and northern European spots. So Spain, Greece, Italy, I don't have so much experience with, but they are a little bit softer. In the Middle Europeans, in Germany, the Franken-Jura and the Elbsandstein, for example, are relatively toughly graded. Especially the Elbsandstein is crazy toughly graded. Czech Republic as well, super toughly graded. And East Austria, some of the cracks in East Austria, that's where I started my outdoor climbing career, so to say, if you want to call it like that. They are relatively toughly graded as well there. So, yeah, there are differences. It's not huge. It's maybe maybe 2 grades of tolerance up and down, right? But that's already the kind of extreme cases. Usually it's relatively slight, and it also has a lot to do with the things that does the climb suit you, you know? Sometimes you have climbs which are just so much easier for tall people compared to short people, and then of course all the short people are going to say, well, that's super hard for a day, while all tall people are going to say that's soft for a day. So you have to differentiate here. It's not that simple, right? It's there is a lot of complexity to that kind of stuff. And I also talked about the phenomenon that we have nowadays a lot, which is that holiday areas, which, new climbing areas, which are made up to be the holiday areas of tomorrow, are usually graded a little bit softer, simply because that attracts more people. Because then you can go there and you can climb your first 7A, or you can climb your first 8A, right? So this is, of course, very attractive. Whether it's good or not, I mean, it's personal opinion. But yeah, that's just how it is. Cloudy, how tall are you? Last time I measured, I was 173 centimeters. And that's also my ape index, by the way. And there was a time when I was 172 centimeters, interestingly enough. And yeah, I had also the same ape index back then. So maybe I got a little bit taller or something. I don't know. I rechecked it and I was, again, 173 centimeters. So this is interesting. Maybe it has something to do with diet. I don't know. Could be. Le Rampedenom. Hi Manny, I'm 48 years old. I climb only outdoors 2 times per month. Well, that's not a lot. And I on-site some 7A, 7B plus after work, 10 tries max. Do you think it's possible for me to work a 8A route? With 2 times per month outdoors? 7B plus after work, 10 tries max. Well, of course, you could try, but probably you should do a little bit more. For me, it sounds like you should do more mileage in 7B plus, 7C, 7C plus area, and then improve from there, right? Jumping from 7B plus to 8A is a pretty, I mean, your great respect must be really not existent to do that kind of jump, especially when you climb 2 times a month, right? I mean, get some more mileage in and try some 7C, 7C plus first, and then go for the 8A, so that you don't have such a big jump in between. Simple as that. Pickle Rick, I have plus 10 ape index, 182 height, and my weight is 64 kilograms. Well, I congratulate you very much to that, because these are epic. These are epic. This perfect body morphology. Perfect body morphology. Actually, you could be a little bit shorter, in my personal opinion, and even lighter. Then your morphology would be even more perfect. But this is already perfect. You should climb super hard very soon. But I just started climbing. Yeah. Keep it up, man. You have great potential. If your finger strength genetics are just decent, you have great potential. Chat is jumping down again. Matt Baird. I have heard many climbers mention crimping too much will lead to injury. That's true, especially if you crimp a lot indoors. I've talked about that previously. I crimp anything I can because my crimp strength is about 30% more than open hand, and half crimp is a bit weaker than open hand. Half crimp is a bit weaker than open hand. Interesting. Yeah, the thing is, yeah, of course, I think 90% of all climbers are the strongest on a full crimp grip. The strongest, I say in quote unquote, because actually it's not physical muscular strength that you're utilizing there when you're full crimping. It is rather you're redistributing forces into your joints and tendons, and this way you make the hold easier to hold. So if your joints and tendons can take it, no problem. At some point, usually though, they start to complain. Okay, they're gonna get inflamed, they're gonna have issues, and then you're gonna have to reduce the intensity anyway. So the thing that I always say is do not full crimp indoors, because for some reason 90% of all injuries that result from crimping too hard are actually coming from indoor crimping, not from the outdoors. From the outdoors, you even if you crimp fully, and this is okay, because when we're talking about outdoor climbing, it is about performance. We just want to have 100% performance when we're on the outdoors, so we use it. So we're gonna utilize those max crimps, these full crimps, full force. The thing is, for some reason on the outdoors, it's just not as injury prone as on the indoors, right? And that's why I always say it doesn't really pay off to fully crimp indoors anyway, because indoor climbing, at least for me, that's training for outdoor climbing. If you're competing indoors and it's about getting that boulder flash, well, then you can crimp full force, of course, right? That's a reasonable approach, I would say. If you want that, then you don't think about, okay, no, I don't want to injure myself. Well, it's competition time, so you better show your best performance. That's, for me, that's outdoor climbing. I want to show my best performance on the outdoors. Indoors is rather training for outdoors, so I usually don't crimp indoors. I also don't train on the hangboard fully crimped. That doesn't make a lot of sense for me, because I would redirect forces from my muscles to my joints anyway, and I want to train my muscles, right? I want to have all the force arrive in my muscles and not be taken away from tendons and joints. So that's my approach on that. I haven't changed on that at all. I made a video back in the day, the importance of gripping technique, rock climbing technique for beginners, the importance of gripping technique. That's what I said back then in that video, and that still stands up until today, actually. Good video, actually. Oh, the connection is unstable. The connection was unstable for a short time. I hope we're back properly. Hi, Manny. Have you ever taken LSD? No, I haven't. I'm not a big fan into drugs. Not a big fan of drugs at all, actually. I don't know if I should get into this topic a little bit deeper, but yeah, if you're interested, you can ask again. No, I have never taken LSD. I've just some experience with some minor alcohol stuff, and that's really it. You know, I'm not into drugs at all, actually. At this point in my life, even less than ever before. Check the English Wikipedia for the grading, I suppose. It's not the same that I am checking. Well, that's actually a good suggestion. Let's check the English one. Come on, then we have to equalize the German and English Wikipedia grading articles. What's up with that? Let's see. Wow, the first thing that I notice is that the English one is a lot bigger than the German one. Wow, okay, here we have a proper scale. Fontainebleau, Brazilian. There's also Brazilian bouldering grades. Interesting. So V6 is 7A, V7 7A plus. Well, again, V11 is 8A, V10 is 7C plus, V9 is 7C. Okay, and V8 is 7B and 7B plus. V7 is 7A plus, and V6 is 7A. And V5 is 6C and 6C plus. Fontainebleau grading, according to the English grading Wikipedia article. So yeah, that's what we're talking about here. It's not that fundamentally different from the German one, as far as I remember. I think V8 is 7B and 7B plus, where people get confused. Yeah, that could be. So actually, V8 is then probably in between, right? In between 7B and 7B plus. 7B/B would be the ideal V8 bouldering grade. How are you doing on the side there? Already tired?
I am a little.
Yeah, me too, actually. Streaming already again for over 2 hours. Really good stream. Had a really good stream. Cool questions. Nice chat, I have to say. It's really funny. I always lose a hell lot of subscribers each and every stream. I'm just gonna say that out there to the audience now so that you know what's up there. Every stream I lose like 10, 20, maybe even 30 subscribers. And at the beginning, I was thinking about, am I getting into such controversial topics on these kind of streams that people really think, okay, we have to unsubscribe now because that's just too much. That's too crazy opinion, or I don't know. I really don't know what it is, but the thing is, I like the streams so much. I like doing them. That's why I keep doing them anyway. And the audience just has to get used to this kind of stuff, okay? If they want to enjoy the Manny the Monkey network, then they have to live with the fact that I stream from time to time. If that's a reason for them to unsubscribe, then go for it. But yeah, really interesting. I always lose a lot of subscribers each and every stream. Although the people who enjoy the stream and watch it and comment, they really give positive feedback on this kind of stuff, usually at least. And yeah, I like it a lot. So I will definitely try to keep this thing up in the near future as well. Like for doing a weekly stream like that on the Sunday evening or on Thursday evening, one of these 2 days, because that's just simply what I can arrange the best. So I think we now let's do 10 more minutes. Okay, 10 more minutes of streaming until we are 2 hours and 25 minutes in. So last couple of questions.
Some space left on my
We've got some.
on my list here.
We have to give special thanks here to Mona, because she is actually paying attention to what I'm talking about and is trying to make chapters for timestamps later on so that you guys can super quickly and easily access the different topics that we talked about during the stream. So special thanks to Mona. That's amazing. That's an amazing job. Give me a kiss. Thanks. She's doing an amazing job there. So yeah, last couple of really good questions, please. I'm jumping down one last time in the chat, and we go 10 more minutes, and then we're done. If you want to drop some more super chats, that's of course very appreciated. I would prefer these kind of questions, but we're just going for what's there. Love the stream, says Chippy. That's amazing. Appreciate it. Dan says, have you ever experienced wrist pain for a longer period? How did you recover from it? If that's the case, no climbing at all or some light climbing. I had wrist pain, but not from climbing actually. I was doing a lot of handstanding when I was getting into the Swiss handstand. Again, I was doing a lot of handstanding when I learned the handstand for the first time. That was back in my high school days, actually. And there I developed a lot of wrist pain as well, because it's just a new stimulus. And when you're having your hands like this and you're walking on your hands all the time, well, then, of course, your wrist's going to get inflamed to some degree. And then later on, when I was a lot into Swiss handstand, I got wrist pain again for a little bit, because on the Swiss handstand, you actually have to lean forward a little bit, and that bends your wrists, your hands, even more than necessary for a regular handstand, right? So yeah, there I developed some wrist pain, but it went away really soon after I got used to the exercise of the Swiss handstand somehow. I never had to reduce any climbing intensity because of it, because climbing did not really aggravate the injury. So that's that. Other than that, just from raw climbing, I never had any wrist pain so far. I'm kind of lucky in that regard. I think it also depends on how your wrists are constituted. I have the impression some people have really tiny wrists for the rest of their arm, while others have really wide and solid wrists, right? And I would expect that the solid wrists are more immune to injury than the small little ones. On certain slopers, we can feel our wrists a lot, right? At least temporarily. And I had this effect as well when I was trying slopey boulders, especially indoors, where you have to press on these greasy slopers a lot, that kind of style. This can be really tough on your inner wrists, I suppose. And if you try the same boulder and over again, and you're falling over and over again with the same hand on the sloper, then you can aggravate some wrist inflammation. Just try a different boulder in that case, okay, and give your wrist some time to adapt. Louis Alex Dubiev. Hi, Manny. I tend to hurt my shoulder sometime when bouldering. Do you do some mobility exercise in your training? Not at all, actually. In my shoulders, I'm kind of a lucky guy. I'm a lucky dude because my shoulders are really strong and they are really immune to injury, I have the feeling. I'm also really strong on Gastons, relatively strong at least. So I suppose it's because I have just strong shoulders in general. What I can recommend is for mobility, you take a rope, okay? Hold the rope on a fixed position with both hands and then try to move the rope to the back of your back, right? Then move it to the front again and always have your arms straight so that you cannot avoid the stretching with your elbows, right? You have your arms straight all the time. You go to the back with the rope and then you go to the front. This is a really good mobility exercise for the shoulders. And another thing that you can try is actually try to grab your hand in the back of in your back, right? Grab your hands like this and then try to become able to do it both ways, right? With your right hand up and your left hand down and vice versa. And this is one thing that I still myself cannot do, by the way. I'm struggling to do this a lot. I can only do it with right hand up and left hand down. But the other way around, I'm still miles away. It feels like I'm miles away, a few centimeters. This is something that I usually now, I incorporated it recently into my mobilizing routine. So maybe a thing that you can check out. Thanks, Mona. Thank you, Mona. Nice work. Danke, Mona. Mona the legend. Yeah, Mona, let's say something into the stream. Come up here.
I'm chilling here next to on the floor because he's on no, I have a good place to sit.
Yeah, we have some sort of we have a pillow on the floor where you can chill out pretty nicely, actually.
Yes.
And did you also do some what is the English name? Crotching. Mona always does such beautiful stuff with fabric and stuff like that. Yeah, she made clothes. She made really nice clothes for the tiny one, for the little one, and we're gonna see if it fits and everything. But it looks amazing. I'm really impressed by her skills, I have to say. She's a craftsmanship woman. Very impressive. Love the stream. Please keep it up. Yes, man. First stream for me, but keep it up, dude. Awesomeness. That's amazing that there is such good feedback on the stream because I really like doing them. Your educated opinion and honesty always attracts me to your vids. Thanks, Manny. That's very appreciated.
I also do the Instagram story so that people know you are live.
Really? Okay.
But after 1 hour of the stream.
Apparently, Mona did an Instagram story on the Manny Monkey Instagram.
Yes.
Oh, okay. So that people know that we're live.
Maybe we do it again next time.
Maybe we do it again next time, yeah. Okay. So that's new social media strategies are getting applied here. That's amazing. We're expanding. We're expanding beyond all horizons. We're gathering
we have time.
Yeah, we're gathering audience from everywhere here.
Supporting the man.
Supporting the channel. Yeah. Johannes Lindner says, what's the minimum amount of salt your body needs during a no salt diet while conditioning for a big climbing day, in your opinion? Tricky question. Salt makes you heavy, but salt is also necessary. And I found that restricting salt too much also restricts power to a certain degree. Obviously, you don't want to salt yourself up completely just because a little bit of salt gives you a bit of power, because that's going to make you a lot heavier and going to let you hold a lot more water weight. So dropping salt is a really, if you are on a standard regular diet, dropping salt or paying attention to salt, quote unquote, will make a huge difference. You're going to lose a lot of water weight. For me, for example, I don't eat a lot of salt anymore anyway. So I am already kind of on the low end of this kind of stuff. And my body has adapted to the low sodium intake. And I think that's the way to go, probably in terms of longevity and stuff like that, in terms of long-term health. But yeah, again, going completely without salt, as I did it in the past sometimes, to shred down water weight like crazy, to be as light as possible, that's not really the ideal approach, because it then attacks your power as well. Yeah, it's a really important electrical conductor in your body, salt. Okay, so if you want to have your nerves and muscles work properly, then you need some sort of salt. How much exactly? Well, that's super hard to tell. In terms of, if you want me to give you a gram number now, I can't do that, because I don't know how big you are, how your previous salt intake was, right? There's things you have to pay attention to with blood pressure and stuff. If you have a super high salt intake from previously dropping all your salt once, going kind of cold turkey with it, well, then you can actually impact your circulation, your blood pressure with that. And when it's super hot, like now, for example, you can get into problems like that, right? So play around with it, experiment around with it, but in a reasonable degree, and yeah, don't overdo it. Dan says, thanks for the answer. I appreciate the stream. It was a pleasure, man. Dustin Bradford. Underclings are really rough on the wrist. That could be, yeah. I just had a tfcc wrist injury. How does everybody know what that means, man? I didn't know it. I heard that for the first time. Avoiding underclings was the fix. Okay, interesting. It's also coming from underclings. That's interesting. The only thing that I feel with climbing, again, sometimes with the wrists, is when I try a slopey indoor boulder over and over again and I'm slipping off of, or something along these lines. Tomas Fontes. Hi, Manny. Thank you for all your knowledge and perspectives since 2017. One question. Have you ever bolted a route? No, unfortunately not. That's completely new terrain for me. I think, yeah, there is good opportunity to bolt new routes in the right area for that stuff, right? In Leonidio, for example, there is still a lot of potential in Greece. I mean, they have so much rock there; it's crazy. Here, where I'm at now in Austria, it's really hard to find good rock that is in a approachable distance, right, and still not bolted. Everything that's good and reasonably approachable is already bolted, especially here in East Austria, because we just don't have so much rock and we want to utilize everything that we have, right? So, yeah, here it's probably hard to find something new. Yeah. Tomas Fontes, congratulations, both of you, and good luck for this new phase. Thank you very much, Tomas. Thank you very much. That's very appreciated. We're already pretty excited about it, actually. It's not going to be too long anymore. 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks. We will see. We will see. It's going to be very interesting, man. I'm really excited, actually. That's going to be an interesting phase, as you said. Roland B, have a good time, have a good night. See you soon. Thanks, Roland. See you soon, man. Get in touch when you're on the way down. Thank you very much for your advices. Keep going. That's appreciated. Big congrats for the kid. Do you know the gender? No, we don't. We actually don't. And if you could only do one exercise, not climbing, for improving sport climbing, which one would it be? One exercise for improving sport climbing, which is not climbing, well, then I would probably go for something along the lines of hangboarding or campusing. If I could not even do that, I would go with Swiss handstanding. Swiss handstanding is amazing for climbing. It gives you just that kind of lower back body strength that you need for sticking your feet to the wall and not losing your feet in overhangs. So we're in the end spurt now, guys. Couple of last good questions. Yo, Manny, I cracked one of my first outdoor boulder projects today, and I'm so happy. That's great to hear, man. Congrats. Were you ever at Blausee in Switzerland? No. There are some amazing boulder problems. Okay, I have to check that out. How do I get more into outdoor bouldering? Like, how often should I go per week if I'm also gym climbing? I would aim at least 2 times per week if you can afford it, if you have the time. Dustin Bradford, you got lucky. I needed surgery on it. Wow, okay. I guess that's the wrist stuff. Johannes Lindner, would you consider 69 kilograms with a body height of 180 centimeters and ape index of plus 11 centimeters as a good weight for lead climbing? Yes. Why not? That's good. I mean, you could be lighter. As we've seen before, there was a guy with 184 centimeters and 64 kilograms, but 69 for that ape index as well is still quite low. So that's a good weight. Triangular fibrocartilage complex. Yes, that's what TFCC means. Thanks again for the explanation. I did not know this myself. It's some sort of structure in your wrists, and apparently it gets injured a lot while climbing. It's a big topic during the stream, interestingly enough. Ethan Garceau. Thanks. I only understand one of those words, but appreciate the response. Haha. Felix White. Hi, Manny. Will you be one of those boulder dads that bring the kid to the mat? Of course, man. The kid will only get the mat. The kid will sleep on the mat. Or are you stopping climbing for a while? Actually, I have stopped for now after the Greece trip because I was very saturated with climbing, and I thought, okay, why not use this very hot season now, the summer that's coming, for a bigger rest, right? So I'm actually resting for already almost 3 weeks or something, huh? I'm resting now. And it feels really great. I wonder how long I will endure it mentally to stay away from climbing for that long, But actually, I'm resting right now, and I plan to get back into climbing real soon, and then I think I will go pretty hard for it, man. I think I will go pretty hard for it because this season is gonna be an epic season, probably. We're gonna try some really hard stuff, man. We're gonna try some really hard stuff, and I have to prepare for that. Felix White. Nebenbei, hast du Erfahrungen mit Klettern, Bouldern mit einem Bandscheibenvorfall? Actually, I had someone who wanted a training regimen from me who had a Bandscheibenvorfall. For those who don't know, I think that's when you squeeze a nerve in your discs, between your discs of your vertebra. That's a Bandscheibenvorfall. I don't know the English word now. And that's, of course, a bit problematic when it comes to bouldering, because you have to jump down on the bouldering mat all the time, and you have to jump into the harness when it comes to sport climbing. So when sport climbing, it is really helpful to be belayed very dynamically, obviously. So you have to have a good belayer. When it comes to bouldering, I'm not really sure how to get rid of that problem, right? Because you will have to jump down on bouldering mats when you're bouldering, whether that's indoors or outdoors. Indoors, it could be a little bit more convenient if the mats are already used quite a lot, because then they are softer. On the outdoors, it's going to be kind of a problem all the time. So maybe just attack reasonably low boulders. Don't go for the super high balls where you have to jump down 5 meters and then get problems like that, right? You could also try bringing a couple of people with you so that you can stack bouldering pads on top of each other and this way create a softer landing. This works as well. But tricky thing, these Bandscheibenvorfall things.
Ich glaube, leichte Sachen können schon den Rücken und so gut stärken, oder?
Yeah, and Mona just said that easier climbing is obviously a good thing for the back in general, right? Probably also for people who have problems in that area. It strengthens the back usually. The problems really only come from jumping down, whether that's sport climbing or bouldering. Shoe recommendation for modern climbing and running on volumes. Scarpa Drago, a soft shoe essentially, an aggressive soft shoe. Congrats to both of you. I'm sure you'll be great parents. Thanks, man. Thanks for the streams and info. That's very appreciated. Thanks. Dan, what is your opinion on downsizing your climbing shoes? I saw on a video that Adam Monroe downsizes his La Sportiva solutions with 4 sizes. Yeah, because it's La Sportiva, and La Sportiva you have to downsize like crazy because these shoes, they extend after you buy them quite a lot. It depends on the shoe brand. Most brands do not extend at least that much, but most other brands also extend to some degree. So downsizing makes sense. But the thing is, the more you downsize the shoe, the more it extends afterwards again until it reaches the size that it just wants to have in equilibrium with your feet, right? So for me nowadays, it doesn't make sense to downsize shoes too much anymore. I don't downsize like crazy. I buy reasonably. I buy in such size that I don't need a piece of plastic to get into the shoe, right? I have to be able to put the shoe on with only my fingers and my feet. All right, guys, I think my voice is already cracking. We are reaching the end of the stream. What an awesome stream. Thanks, man. You have a good week. Thanks, man. Thanks, Adam Sharma. Greetings from Austria. Have a good week as well. Thanks for the feedback. It's disc prolapse, by the way. Thanks. The Bandscheibenvorfall is disc prolapse in English. Right size for leg slings to take all the weight. I don't know what that is. Leg slings. All right, guys. We already are 10 minutes longer than we planned to be. So I will have to finish this stream now. Thanks again for joining. One of the best streams I think that we had so far. What
2.5 hours.
Yeah, 2.5 hours again. Also, some super chats came in. How amazing is that? Thanks a lot for your donations. Thanks a lot for the super chats. That is very appreciated. Yeah, the next one is probably gonna take place at next Sunday again. Same time, same place. We are trying to be very reliable with that now. We're doing our best. Keep crushing, my friends. Have a great week. I think the next week is gonna be awesome. I have it in my urine. I can feel it in my urine. The next week is gonna be awesome. Try some hard projects. You're gonna have some strength. There's gonna be some low gravity days. I talked to the climbing gods recently. So anyway, keep crushing, stay strong. We will see you soon in the next one. Have a good night and have a good next week. Bye, my friends.